Hey, good morning, folks. Good morning, or good day, good afternoon, depending, and all that. Certainly hope you're doing well, though. Pretty excited to get out to the charts again today. I am going to, number one, we're going to look at the software, excuse me. I apologize. We're going to look at the software enhancements in the latest version. So we recently released version 3100, right? 3.1.0.0, and now we're on 01. So if you want to go back and review, because there was a major release which was at 3.10, you're welcome to go back and review that as always. It's in the software documentation, okay, as always, in the release notes. If you scroll to the bottom left of the menu, you'll see where it says release notes. Just click there. You're good to go. But we are going to go ahead and cover the latest notes here, and I'm pretty excited about this. I'll be honest with you, because we're at a we're at a very good point where we're just my goodness, I'm so sorry if that's coming across loud. I certainly can, pause if I need to. But anyway, we're at a point now where we're, feeling pretty good as far as focus. Where, in other words, we can, focus on other things a little bit more, specifically just, analysis, education, putting all the pieces to the puzzle together, things to that extent. Because in this release, we've put in some things that really we've been in discussion or whatnot, or something to that extent for quite some time. There's those little things that you kind of want to get figured out, but it's like, yeah, we have other things that we're currently doing or whatever. So this is where we'll get to some of the refined items, or some refined items. Okay, so let's go ahead and get out to the charts, and let me go ahead and get that done right now. See here, and new items. Very good. All right. So, okay, remembering, as you just saw the disclaimer, as I always say, make sure you read through that, folks. It's there for your benefit as much as mine, or ours rather. And so everything we discuss, of course, for educational purposes only. So make sure you always remember that. Okay, we are here to help to the best of our ability, and that's exactly what we want to do. Let's see. All right, getting some messages coming through. Okay, so like I said, yeah, we're going to start with that. We're going to start with the software, and we'll move through that, and then we will we will move forward, because, as I said, I'm pretty excited about getting out to the charts today. Some things that I want to talk about. As you recall, we just got some inflation data out, things like that. So you got your PPI this morning, came out better than expected. So I think you all know about how we feel about these positive economic news or events or data, if you will. So as I've been continuously warning, not warning, but we just awareness, as we've been in discussions, talking about what our expectations are, and rather anticipating the outcome. And so I think we're just going to stick with that. All right, and hopefully everything that you're seeing is making complete sense. Remember, we always do, but I'm just saying in general, even with this, we've had a complete plan, and we really discussed it yesterday, as you all remember. We know what we've been looking at for weeks now, and that really hasn't changed. We're going to continue on that path. Sometimes things take longer. It's no fun, because when we look at this, let's say that we expect price to go, or not. Again, I should be careful. I don't expect per se anything. We anticipate, but so if we anticipate price to go lower, and then price rallies up, like this right here, for all intents and purposes, let's say that it does this. Now, if you recall, this was expected, and then we had that little demand. We had that demand set up right here, so we were looking to go long, right there. That was the predetermined buy setup, right? So it's ironic because on the upside, with an anticipation of going lower, then we get something like this and it just throws everything off, So you're thinking now, oh my goodness, we're just going to, forget that noise. We're going higher. But it doesn't work that way, right? Like, you remember that the markets always fluctuate. They're dynamic by design, of course, because why would I say that? What does that even mean, Will, when you say they're dynamic by design? It's simple. They're built on humans. I mean, there you go, right? So as human nature dictates, we're emotional beings, as we always talk about, and that's just how it's always going to be. Because you think a little bit different than me, right? No, Will, we are exactly the same. Well, I doubt it, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to have, you're going to wake up and you didn't get much sleep last night, so you're going to be a little tired. You're going to wake up. You're going to have a hard day at home. Heaven forbid your spouse maybe doesn't like the pants you have on that day, offends you a little bit, and then you're going to have a pretty bad day, right? Whereas I woke up, I got plenty of sleep, and fortunate enough, my wife just absolutely tells me that no matter what all the world says about me, she thinks I'm looking good that day. All right. So, but all joking aside, I'm just saying things are different, right? So you may have an emotional reaction to the market that day, whereas I may not. Conversely, the following day may be very different. Next day I wake up and she says, "You're exactly what everybody says about you. You look," I'm joking. Yeah. So maybe you guys don't know me well enough to understand that that poor humor, but that's an attempt at it. So anyway, yeah, we're always going to have some different emotion, just again because human nature is a fickle pickle, isn't it? So I would say we're always going to cause this. It's going to move up and down without us liking it. All right. Okay, so it just makes sense. We are going to go up, but the idea or the principle behind that is if we have the anticipation of price, let's call the overall, right? So if we would say overall going lower, then then the up moves we should really look at as a favor, right? Yeah, I mean, that's what they are. So it's the inverse of what you would, what, I'm glad I'm saying it like this, because this just, how sometimes you're talking and then, just epiphany goes off. So this is kind of an epiphany moment for me, whereas it's a different way of explaining it. So I always use real life examples because that's what this is. It's no different. When I say things like, and I know you've all heard me, you're like, oh, he's about to use the Best Buy. But yeah, so I mean, I always talk about you get the discount email, you go buy the TV or whatever. It's relatable to anything you buy and sell, right? So, but what I'm referring to now is you just invert that. So if you think about it, your standard day-to-day living, we talk about buy low and sell high, right? So if I get that email, the 20% off today, okay, so I just got a discount. That means I have a lower price. And so invert that. When we're in a downtrend, for all intents and purposes, the perception of, and we can use the same analogy if you like, or whatever, but let's say the TV, the idea there is that the trend is down, not up. So that I would say that is the only thing about the markets that may be a little bit different from your day-to-day living, whereas our day-to-day living is pretty much always going to be, well, that's not fair. I mean, most of the time, let's say, it's going to be going up. Now, I do recall, like, specifically the TVs. They have definitely come down in price. If you recall when they came out many, years ago, let's say about 15 years ago, right, something to that extent, they started coming out with those big, plasma TVs, and it was the flat screens. I could have been a little bit longer than that, but anyway, they were very expensive. I recall getting one, and I was like, oh goodness, these are costly. And today you can get that same TV, which is way better, for pretty much about a quarter of what we used. I mean, you can go to Walmart, Best Buy, Target, name a, you can go and probably get a 50-inch nice TV for like $500, And so that was not the case back then. There were about 2,500. Big difference. But anyway, so that, that is a downtrend, and but we don't think about it that way. So in the markets, we think about, where's price going and so on. Well, if you do buy things on a daily basis, you understand the trend, but generally, like I said, you think of a discount as a lower price. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Just whatever you're going to buy, the discount code provides you a value which is underneath what the current value is being offered at, right? So if you flip that over, it's the same thing. It would look the same, but again, it's inverted. So in a downtrend as such, the discount, right, is this. That is the discount, but it's not going down. It's actually going up. You see what I mean? Does that make sense? Well, that was probably a poor poor job I did there of explaining my my epiphany. Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to get at. This right here, these moves, when overall anticipation is to go down, when we go up, that is the discount. All right, very good. So let's get straight to the software first so we can come back and we can do all of this good fun analysis here. I would watch as we're maybe going through and covering the software, which we will be here looking at it anyway, but we're just watching that 35.71 3/4. Please remember what's below that. So a little bit of room there. And this is a struggle. Remember what we talked about just yesterday, okay? I told you about this low right here. This is a daily low. It's the lowest low that we've made in the entirety of this downtrend of 2022. So it is a key number. Every time we go down and we form, these discount rallies, I'm just calling, there is no coined phrase there, I don't think. That's because of what we were just talking about. I'm going to call this a discount rally, right? Meaning that it's going up to give us a better price to sell. Anyway, so the discount rally you get right here, every time you go down and you form one, just understand that when we go back to the lows of it, it's going to offer support. And the reason for that is because by design, the index markets are, to go higher, not lower. The idea there is that it's an investment that I would say, again, by design, but most people should be able to invest in that theoretically, and over the longer term, that they should get a pretty decent ROI. Statistically, is 10%. The average, okay, over on the S&P, to be specific, the average ROI has been 10%. You can look that up. You should look that up. Don't take my word for it, but I believe I'm correct there. So again, as you know, then that makes only good sense to say by design it is to go higher. So every time we form these lows as such, they're going to maybe say, hold on a minute, is this the low? Have we put the low in? Is this the bottom, right? You'd hear that terminology probably quite a bit. Oftentimes, sure, it very well might be, but when you're in a bear market, define that, by the way, bear market, I still believe very much we're in a long-term bull market, long-term. We are absolutely in a bear market, shorter term, okay, as we've been discussing for the entire year, not quite, but since the first quarter, I guess. So anyway, you go back and look at these, and you'll see what I'm referring to. If I can grab it. So you see, you put this low in, right? You kind of rally up from it. You come back down, and it holds, right? You go over here. You rally up from it. You come back to it. It holds actually multiple times. You go over here. That way you get a couple in through here actually, but don't count this one because it's just a retest of this back here anyway. But so you go down here, you form a new low. Okay, you rally up, you come back to it. It bounces off of it right there, bounces off of it again, right? Eventually this one breaks relatively easy compared to the rest of them. This one, surprisingly, breaks easier than any of them. And then you go on down, okay, and you rally away. You come back to revisit it. Multiple times that one holds. And now you're just doing it all over again. So rinse and repeat, right? So that's all this is. Again, every time you go down, you're going to find support. So don't let me deviate too much. I apologize. Let me pause for just 1 minute. I'm going to get this distracting noise out of the background here, and then go straight to the software. Pause for just 1 minute. Thank you. Okay, I'm back. See, less than a minute. That wasn't too bad. All right, so like I said, let's jump right up to the software, and then we will we'll come back to this and we'll talk about it kind of ongoing. Yeah. So again, version 3.1.0.1 is where we are. If you are eligible for the upgrades, or if you remain eligible, if you will, you're welcome to go ahead and download it. It is in the membership, your membership guide as we speak. It's already there, so also you should have gotten a pop-up notification. I know emails went out to all of the PFAZoneSuite members, of course, and lifetime subscribers and all that good stuff. You're the first to get it. So you probably already have it on your chart. You can just follow along. There are some things that we would want to talk about because there is specifically one setting in a different location. We're just going to start with that one. Now, this is kind of one of those things where I've talked about, you know, we've been in discussions for this for a while, and was able to implement it. Got our wizard behind the curtain and all that, and he was able to get that done. It's pretty amazing. What it does, so it's call it what you want, but it's the performance enhancer, right? It's what I refer to it as. And first and foremost, let's just look at where that is. Then we're going to go into an explanatory situation here. So we're going to right-click the chart. And the reason I'm telling you this is because, as I said, it's in two different locations. First and foremost, 99% of the indicators and everything that you would see out there in the NinjaTrader platform, if you will, they're going to be their settings are going to be located in the NinjaTrader ecosystem, in the NinjaTrader indicator settings, right? So
what you would do, there's a couple ways to get there. Number one, you can go up here and hover your mouse over this little icon here. You can see where the pop-up there states indicators, right? Or you can simply right-click your chart and you can go to indicators from here. You can, of course, use your your keyboard shortcuts if you desire that as well, but let's just go into the indicators to keep this simple. All right, so there's the PFA here. Now, what I want to bring your attention to specifically is this right here, number 2, okay, under the internal use only. You don't need to make changes to this, right? Really, you never need to come here, I mean, for the most part, right? So once you install the software, it comes right out of the box, as you know. It's ready to go. You don't really need to make any changes whatsoever. However, there is a couple things that, like, for example, if you're using Bloodhound, there are certain things you can enable that, so on. You can include volume for Bloodhound's purposes, etc. But that's you may or may not know that's a third party, and we include that for compatibility purposes towards their software. Okay. Other than that, I think you're probably all pretty familiar with all of this. We don't need to go through all of that right now. If you have any questions regarding it, let me know, and I'll be happy to address them. But I want to get focused on this right here. Again, performance mode. I call it a performance enhancer because that's exactly what it does. It enhances the performance. Now, what it's designed to do is remove certain functionality that may be unnecessary. So we're not going to use all of the functionality at all at all times, so therefore I can remove a lot of it. What I'm most interested in is simply having the zones on my chart with the order management, right? So those are the two predominant components, if you will. I just have to have them. I want the zones, and I would like the order management, and that's at all times. What I don't necessarily need all of the time are the tools, right? The additional tools. like your market structure, things like that. I don't need the visible volume and or order flow inside the zones, things like that. I don't always need that. There are a lot of people who may or may not use it. So for myself, I love VPS. I'm a pretty big fan of them. I like to be able to access things from wherever I go. And if I make a change, to something, I like to be able to go out to lunch or whatever and be able to pull that up and it, not have to redo everything, right? So a VPS is a good way to go, in my opinion. But the downside of a VPS is you're either going to pay a lot, right? Like if you want the specs of your, let's say, your office machine, okay? Like you want to get 16 gigabytes of RAM, and you want an Intel i7 processor, and the bells and whistles of your machine. Well, you're going to pay a hefty fee for that one. So what you can do is lower the specs. You may not need that i7. You may be able to get away with an i5 or even an i3, okay? And then you may not need 16 gigs of RAM. You can certainly get away with 8 and maybe even 4, depending on how much how much you're doing on the machine. Okay? So with the ZoneSuite, let's say that I need to go back, or I want to go back 100 days worth of data. So when we do that, to be realistic, there are so many calculations being made, and just to get the data in alone, if you notice sometimes without doing anything at all, now for me it's going to load really fast just because I've already loaded it and it's cached that data, but if I were to load a new market, one that I've not loaded before, and or delete all of the cache, it would take a while. So if I go here and try to load a monthly chart, this has, look, you see where it says loading right here? The ZoneSuite, now it's calculating. So you see the ZoneSuite actually loaded faster than the data in itself did. And again, that's already been loaded. That's cached. So it's very fast. But there are a lot of, it's just calculation after calculation. So to be realistic, we have to understand that I can't just go back with endless amounts of data. If I try to load 100 days on a 1-minute chart, I mean, could you imagine? Look, think about the calculations that you're trying to do. And yet somehow we think that that's going to load in 2 seconds. It is not, okay? So we're doing all these calculations, trying to find supply-demand zones, trying to, whatever it is that you have loaded on your chart, and going back that far is not quite realistic. It's not impossible. It's just we have to be realistic with the amount of time in which it will take, okay? So to enhance that, thus the performance mode, by removing certain functionality, like for example, again, the visible volume, right? So let me put it a different way. Maybe the things that are not absolutely required to compute the zones and the order management, as well as just some other things that are still readily available, would be your draw tools and the alerts. All of that still works. We're just trying to remove some tools and the things that are not necessary for doing the computations, okay? And in order to load more data and be more efficient, time efficient especially, by removing that, we've accomplished that. I mean, it's pretty astonishing. So we can go back now, we can load quite a bit of data, and we can do it really fast. And we can put that to the test. I'm happy to do it. I don't want to be unrealistic. Let's not do anything silly because I don't want to have any issues. Again, I don't want to go back and try to load hundreds of days on a 1-minute chart. What am I going to do with that? It doesn't, I mean, for me, that doesn't make a whole bunch of sense. I don't need that data. I would not want to do it. If I need to go back that far, I'm just going to go up to a larger time frame. Okay? So again, number one on our list, and if you're following along actually in the release notes, you'll note there, I'll just read it verbatim. So added a performance enhancer, removes much of the functionality other than zones, continuations, alerts, and order management, among a few others. Now, let's talk about what those are. So, as I said, the functionality of the zones in themselves, of course, is not affected. The continuations, you can see that even though I'm using the enhancer or the performance mode, you can see how I'm still populating my RBRs and DVDs continuation patterns, right? All of that is still there. I should have stated that as well, because those are definitely definitely needed. You all know this. That's how many setups occur, including the recent ones that you have all seen, as well as the one yesterday, the trade that we executed yesterday in the room, right? What was that done from? RBR. So we definitely need those, and they are not affected. They are still going to function entirely. Alerts. So we can go here, we can still set our alerts if we want to grab the PFA alert line, right? I can go put those anywhere on the chart that I want, and those are still going to function as well. That's nice because, as I'll get to in just a little bit, some of the great functionality, I will, you know me, I kind of put the cart before the horse sometimes, but I'm super excited to talk about how the RBRs and DBD entry, the order management is being handled now, because it really helped me out the other day. I'll tell you a little bit about that, but anyway, sorry, I'll get to that. So lots of things, definitely lots of things. But the alerts are there to benefit us, let's say, if I'm sleeping, okay? Or if I'm just, in general, if I'm away from my machine, because I cannot tell you how important that is for me. I don't know about yourself, but for me, I'm just speaking transparent and humbly. I need to get up and walk away, folks. I mean, it just is what it is. I've been doing this for a very long time. I know we talk about that all the time, but you've been with me. Some of you have been with me for 12 years. I mean, it's a long time, but even today, I mean, it's just, again, I'm trying to be humble and transparent with you. I need to get up and walk away, right? Because if I'm looking at, which I am, I'm always looking at the bigger moves in the market, but every time, when I go out and I start looking at the really small time frames, it's going to have some impact on my mental state. It just is. And it's not that I'm trying to remove that. And as I was joking with a very nice individual yesterday, we're having a few conversations and things and had some questions and whatnot, but so I was joking about the concept of we're not trying to remove our emotion, because we're human beings, and to remove them is by definition psychopathic behavior, right? So when I say that, there's a little bit of joking, because I know that's not the case with any of us. I'm just saying that is to define it. That's what it is. So we certainly don't want to remove our emotion. We couldn't anyway. I mean, even if we wanted to, it's not possible to remove them. And so therefore, that's not my goal. I don't even want to. I'm not attempting it, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, I know that's the biggest barrier and or hurdle, right? So what I do is I attempt to control it. That's what I'm trying to tell you. My controlling it, just leave it. Walk away. And it is astonishing, even all these years later. It still blows my mind. The other day, I trying to kind of work around some things and so on and so forth, and I say, come on, let's go. We had an event thing that we need to go do. The minute that we left the office to go kind of get away for a little bit and do whatever it is that we needed to do at that time, it's like instant, right? So the moment that we leave the office, it's gone, and it is what it is at that point. So then you go, okay, well, it is what it is. I'm going to return, and it's going to be great, or it's not going to be good, but ultimately I'm not going to have to deal with the constant emotion. I should deal with one emotion. When I come back, oh man, that stinks, or oh, that's awesome. But I just have that one time. I'm not constantly doing it, because if I am, think of the biggest, baddest roller coaster in the world, and that's what you're living on. It's like basically you spend 8 hours out of your day on that roller coaster. Imagine how sick you'd be, right? So again, trying to control, not remove. All right, there's our open. Let's see what's going to happen. All right, so first and foremost, we talked about the performance enhancer. We removed, I'm just going to go through these kind of one by one, and then we'll get out to talking about the overall analysis, right? Do watch. Please remember what I've already told you, what we talked about yesterday. I mean, we already have all of this mapped out. So as I'm talking and discussing all these things, please remember what I've already stated just yesterday. Go back and review the recording again if you need to, but we'll address some things again today as well. All right, so the next, we remove the Add to Position button from the drop-down menus when its functionality cannot be used. So what does that mean, Will? Well, let's say that I go here and turn off my my OCO for all intensive purposes. Now, you know what, I probably should have come back to this one so I could have done some other things first, but that's okay. Let's just say that I go here and I submit an order to buy. Now, obviously, this is completely a dummy order, and I would not be hitting this button right now, okay? But I'm going to do it just for example purposes so that I can show you what I'm talking about. So if I go submit this, okay, you can see here it's on a sim account. If I go submit this, 695, there we go. All right, so it's going to get, if we go up here, do you notice how the menu is the same as it was before I substantiated this position? Okay, let's do it a little different. So I bought that position. In order to exit it, I just need to close it out. So I'm going to go submit. Oh, there you go. And so remember, it's all about efficiency. We're moving through this really fast, and that's how fast I can execute orders, just like that. But let's do something a little bit different. Let's turn that OCO back on, and let's go back and buy the market again. Okay, so I'm going to go here, and I'm going to submit for 5. That's at 92 3/4, so 91 3/4. Let's just pull it down. I'm going to get it filled. There we go. Okay. Now when I go back up here, the menu items look very different. So they don't contain all of the order types, because now I have a new capability. Because I have the OCO on, it recognizes that I may desire to dollar cost average, right? Or however you want to shake a stick at that and define dollar cost average. If you're shorting the market, you might want to add to the position, okay? So this is a feature long anticipated as well. And let's move the stop. We'll just kind of do something like that. Let's say that let's say that I wanted to dollar cost average and buy this market, hypothetically, right? So I want to buy here 5 contracts, and ultimately I'm trying to end up with 10 contracts, okay? But price continues its decline, and you know, for whatever reason, I'm not willing to go at it full 10 contracts, but I see that we have an area coming below. So what I can do is go here and add to position. I can pull that down, increase that to whatever I like. Maybe I want to do 3 here and 2 below, or the total 5 here. However I want to do it. I can go here and submit that as well. If price descends to 33.54.50, then of course I would have another 5 contracts filled, and then I would go back up here. Notice what's happened. All right. So this is where the documentation and the removal of the add to position button is what I read it out to you, right? So this is one of the in the release notes. Do you notice that we've removed that now? Okay, because it's trying to say, hold up, what are you doing now? You already have you've already submitted a live. You got to be very careful with this. So it's kind of like I'm trying to save myself from myself. Oh. We all need that, right? Come on, make me feel better about myself. I'm just kidding. So we have this, and we removed it because the functionality is trying to say, hey, hold on. In other words, I don't want it to be there if the functionality isn't there, right? So I could toggle that on or off or whatnot, and then I could go here and cancel that if I desire that as well. So it's just saying, you know, again, it's removing the unnecessary toggle because I don't have that functionality. Okay? All right, very good. Now let's say, tell you what, let me first and foremost just close this out. There we go. And then as you notice, when the order is or has been completed, you see all your options readily available once again. Okay? All right, so now this is the one I was telling you just a little bit ago I'm pretty excited about. We changed, and I'm going to go to the smaller time frame for this, by the way, because, you know, see how it works. You could, well, there's already a DVD there. So let's go over here. The next is I'm going to read this again. So we changed the RBR and DVD entries to initially display on the continuation line, not dependent on risk management. So tell you what, since there's already a DVD over here, let me just use this one, and then we'll go back to that chart where there's not a DVD or RBR already there. You can see this label right here, DVD 3578 3/4, and since it's already there, this one allows me to show you. So I'm going to take and submit, or at least just pretend to submit an order on that DVD, right? So if I want to say DVD entry, there we go. I guess I had already I must have been messing around with it maybe today or yesterday or something. But anyway, so what I'm going to do is just go there, select the DVD entry as I did. It's going to populate my order labels. You can see the target down there. All right. And then what I can now do, or actually, let me backtrack. Previously, what it would have done is taken where the stop would be above the structure, right? So it would take from the stop, and it would measure down to the maximum risk tolerance, all right? But I said, you know what, no, I really want that. I mean, the whole purpose for efficiency was to have the label on the actual RBR or DVD. In other words, I don't want it to be, sorry, it's going to keep moving because I have it on the DVD. It's just going to keep floating back to it. You see how that works? But anyway, I don't want my entry to be up here because then I have to go grab it and move it. And I know this sounds tedious, and I mean, I'm kind of laughing at myself as I say it out loud. But it is what it is. I'm able to make fun of myself. And especially on the VPS, when I'm out, let's say I'm on my mobile device and I'm trying to make an alteration. Let's say I want to submit a DVD entry. What I found myself doing, I'm going to use the cell entry right now because this is how it used to function. So it may have looked, a little something like this, right? On the VPS, what I found myself doing is because you're using your finger, right? It's not like an actual mouse or anything. And then I would pull it down, and it would do something like this, or it would do something like that. And then I would have to go into the VPS, and I'd have to spread this thing open, and we'd have to, okay, can I get it? It was a little bit more challenging. Again, is it a big deal? No, come on. But I don't have time to be doing all of this stuff. I got a, business or life to lead or whatever the case is. And sometimes, quite frankly, it's just annoying on your mobile device depending on how good your data is. Because if your data is not really good, maybe it's a little slower in a location in which you are, then you're going to have a fairly difficult time doing that because there's a lag in that. So again, it can be a little bit irritating, and I wanted to ensure that there were no future issues that arise from that. As such, instead of doing it that way and then having to alter the entry and so on, I would rather alter the stop or what have you. So if I go here, I'm going to go back to the DVD, and you can see there what it does. It takes the maximum risk tolerance, which is equivalent of 100 ticks. You can see that right here. Okay, so negative 100. That means the stop is 100 ticks currently. I can move that to wherever I want. If you go down here, trigger line is 200. That's a positive number. So that means that I have a 2-to-1 at trigger line, or break even plus commissions if you'd rather say it that way. And then down here I have a 4-to-1. So 400 ticks in relation to 100 ticks of risk, right? 4-to-1. Again, that can be set to anything that I want. So that's another benefit there, is this is now going to be automatically stuck on the label in itself. So the DVD and or RBR if I've opted for that. Now, I don't have an RBR right here right now, so I'm going to wait to get to the next software release function before I discuss that one. Okay, so just another note here. Again, I can take any of these, move them, all that good fun stuff. Doesn't matter, wherever I want it, I can do that. Okay, but what I can't do is this. Right? What it's going to do is just keep self-locking. Okay? So there's the mechanism in there that's consistently saying, hey, no, you have to be here. This is what you told me to do. If you don't want to be here and you want to just put an entry like way down here or whatever, that's fine. Just go grab the cell entry, and you can put that wherever you want, right? We could do something like this, and just it just stays where it is. So different order types for different reasons. Yeah. So I'm going to go back to the DVD, and you'll see that it maintains its calculation there. Now, if I don't like what I've done, I can left-click the reset, and it'll just go back to its original calculations. Okay. All right, on to the next. And in order to, actually, you know what? I can do this here. Probably should do it on the very small time. Man, I missed that one, so that would have been good. Here, let's do it over here because this actually might happen. So let's go to use that same type of entry, right? We're talking about the RBR and DVD. So the next release note there is that we change the RBR DVD entries When no RBR or DVD is active, it will continue until one appears. So you can see right now there is no label, there is no RBR label, DVD label. But I can go opt for one. Okay, I can say, no, but I get it. I know there's not one there, but I want one, right? So if, then, else. If an RBR occurs here, then I want to execute it, else I do not, right? So this has been a huge thing. It's what I was telling you about a little while ago, whereas I told you I would come back to this as far as how it helped me. So I'll give you a little, kind of a little example. The other day, I am, thinking it's bedtime. All right. So I'm looking for this specific setup, if you will. There's a short setup and looking for this specific thing. And I just, oh man, I was like, man, I really don't want to, I don't want to have to wake up at 1, 2 a.m. or whatnot. I just don't want to deal with that. And so instead of that, I said, no, I'm not going to. I know that I want to submit an order if I get a DVD. I just don't want to wake up at 1 or 2 to find out if it's there. So you can see what just happened. You see how your RBR is there? Now watch. You see how it's locked in? There's nowhere, I can't go anywhere. There's nowhere for me to go. All right? Nowhere for me. I moved my stop down, but that's fine. Okay, so again, let's walk through. I'm just going to reload real quick. I'll just do it this way to make it simple and fast. It's the same as it being there and submitting it as such, right? So it's there now, so it already knows. It's like, no, I see the label. I'm going to self-lock. Sorry, I'm opening up my risk management each time, but that's okay. So now we don't have a DVD though. So if I go there and I submit a DVD, it's just going to keep looking for one. So to be clear, and this is important, if I go here and submit this, if it touches the label, okay, it doesn't matter. It's not going to execute anything because there's no DVD there. What it's currently doing is just literally taking that label and it's just putting it on the low of the previous candle. That's all. So the low there, it's just going to put it just below that. If it goes down, that's fine. There's no order that's going to be submitted or anything. Read the label down here. It says live orders will be submitted on the appearance of a DVD. Well, there is no DVD, right? So of course I can't do that. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to submit it on the RBR, which is currently there, and I'll submit that. Now you see a different label here. It says live orders will be submitted on the touch of the trigger lines. And again, that's because there is an RBR there, so it is valid, okay? Let me simplify this. In the event that there is no RBR and or DVD, whatever corresponds with the one that I'm attempting to execute, that's fine. It's going to put the labels there, and it's just going to continuously look for it until it gets it, right? And then it's going to self-lock. It's going to say, got it. There's my RBR if that's what I was trying to submit. Found it. Now I'm, like keyed into it. I'm not going anywhere, all right? And that's what's going to happen. So as I'm going to bed the other night, like I said, I just say, oh, I'm looking for that DVD, but I just don't want to wake up early to find it. So what did I do? I went up here, I clicked DVD entry, and I submitted it. And then, now mind you, this is very important. Actually, give me just 1 second, folks. I'm so sorry, but I got to take a quick break, and I'm going to come right back, and I'll explain a little bit further. Okay. Thanks again for your patience. Yeah, so I can see here the that RBR got executed, right? Okay, so what I was going to mention a moment ago is the importance here in the time frame. Now, when I'm giving this example of going to bed or whatnot, you know, things like that, it is really important to notate that I was on a 4-hour chart, okay? So the reason that's important is because let's say, hypothetically, that I submitted that same entry. I'm ready to go to bed, you know, and it's I don't want to wake up in the middle of the night, so I go up here and I submit, you know, a DVD entry. Well, if I'm on a 3-minute chart, okay, it may take me, you know, 15 minutes. It may take me 6 minutes, okay? It can be very fast, and it wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense. Why not just stay up for, you know, 10, 15 minutes? It's not a big deal, okay? But on the bigger picture, those take a long time to work out. If you think about it, let's say that on average, let's say we get, I don't know, let's say you get 8 hours of sleep. I'm just throwing that out there. So that makes sense because on a 4-hour chart, I'm going to get 2 bars, right? I mean, that's it. So for me, it made a lot of sense. Given the location that we were in, I didn't want to miss that location, but again, ultimately, I don't want to be waking up in the middle of the night every, you know, like I've had to do that in the past. It's kind of daunting. Certainly not ideal by any stretch, but I have missed many entry because of that same issue. I'm like, I go to bed, I'm like, all right, I'm going to wake up in the morning. If I get, you know, that or whatnot, I'll go for it. Well, I wake up, huge move, you know, already happened, huge move, whatnot. So that's very critical to me, is I don't want to miss those. So some key behavior here about that. In the event that I do submit that order, let's say again I do it on a 4-hour chart, right? Because that's more, you know, for me at least, that's certainly more realistic. Let's turn these off. So if I go down here and this DVD did not exist, okay, something like that, and I said, all right, but I want to short the market, and I just don't see an option right now. There is no entry setup or whatnot. But again, overnight, if it happens, I certainly do not want to miss it. But if it doesn't occur, I don't want to take it either, right? Okay, so I don't want to just go down there and place a random sell order, because what if it goes up and invalidates the DVD, something to that extent? So then I don't want to do that, but I don't want to miss it if it does print one, you know, and you go on and on. So if that happens, let's say it goes down and it forms the DVD, and again, I'm on a 4-hour chart or whatnot, or any other time frame, but in my example, I'm using 4-hour chart. So overnight, the DVD populates, okay? So it's going to go down, it's going to self-lock to the DVD, if you will, and then let's say for whatever reason, that DVD becomes invalidated. So does my order, right? It's not going down there submitting the order and saying it's just there forever. It's dependent on that DVD being there. So if the DVD becomes invalidated, so does my label. Does that make sense? Is there anyone who has a, let me put up the chat here real quick for me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry too, I've missed some, let me pause for a moment and get these questions out of the way. By the way, thank you all for the amazing good mornings and comments and everything. Most appreciated. Is it typical for the sessions for the total team to not allow one to join before about 7 minutes before starting? That may have been something that I did accidentally or whatnot, but no, you should be able to join. I could be wrong. Maybe I'll look into the settings. Maybe something got changed or what, but I thought it was 45 minutes before. That could have been changed, and if so, I apologize for that. I'll definitely take a look. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Jacob, hopefully you're getting audio now. Okay. So Investopedia says, we were talking about the average return earlier, says the average annualized return since adopting 500 stocks into the index in 1957 through December 31st, 2021 is 11.88%. That's incredible. It's even better than I stated of the what I thought it was about 10%. But yeah, that's so near almost 12. Well, let's say it for what it is, 11.88%. That's amazing. Yeah, it's pretty decent. Whew, hard to beat that. What is Bloodhound? I will let you kind of find that one out on your own. I'll guide you to it, but I just don't want to spend too much time on a third party. It's amazing, you know, for what it is. It's not necessary for anything that we do, but it is a wonderful tool, and it's a wonderful company. I will say a lot. It's by Shark Indicators. You're welcome to look it up. If you decide to, you know, make a purchase from them, let me know. We can probably, like we typically work together to discount our products if bought in conjunction. But it's called Blood. You can just like Google, if you will, Shark Indicators Bloodhound, and it'll populate. Yeah. Okay. You are getting default using NinjaTrader indicators. Why can't you use your user inputs menu? Very good. Okay, so let's go back to that, because what you're asking about is when I went into the indicators, you don't need to use any of this. That's what I was trying to say before. You're absolutely right. Like including this right here where it says reset to template, you don't need to go here. This is only like for all intents and purposes on an initial load. You know, when you load the PFAZoneSuite for the very first time, if you've had the ZoneSuite on your chart before, then it stores a temporary template, right? That's what this is right here. This is instance name, but ultimately this is a temporary template saving the settings in which you've made changes to from the template, which is here. So on the initial load, you could certainly do this. But yeah, you don't need to because it's in the drop-down menu. I'll show you that in a moment. And again, all of this is really just to use on initial load. The only one that you really need to be predominantly aware of is the performance mode. And this cannot be located in the user inputs menu because the user inputs menu is generated on calculation. So as the PFAZoneSuite does all of its calculations, it also puts the user input menu on the chart, because that's when you're now allowed to make all the changes to the settings, etc. So on your initial load, and or if you decide, you know what, I had it on the chart, but I want to go into performance mode, you would need to go here because the performance mode is before the calculations are made. So think about it like this. In the code, if you will, it's first going to say, it's going to check that performance mode, right? And it's going to say, all right, hey, performance mode, before I go into the code and or start executing all these different areas of code, which portions do you want me to execute, right? That's kind of what it's doing. So it's going to say, if this is checked, I'm only going to execute these sections of code. Else, if this is not selected, I'm just going to go ahead and execute all portions of code, right? And that's why this has to be done first before the user input menu can be loaded. That's an excellent question, by the way. I like where your head's at there, and I hope that addresses your question. If not, let me know, and I'll go a little bit further with it. Now, do let me address the other thing that you just were talking about, though, or that I was. So remember, we don't need to go into the indicator. Again, you really never need to. There's no purpose in going there. You don't need it. The only reason that I would go there would be if you wanted to switch the performance mode on or off. I mean, if you're using Bloodhound, that's a whole different kind of thing. We don't need to worry about that too much right now, or things to that extent, right? But let's focus on the simplicity of it. Now, if I do want to alter the template, though, please remember, as we just we're showing you the template there, you can reset it from here, yada yada. Don't need that, though, because what I can do is just go click a simple button, and it does it anyway, right? So it just did all of that work for me directly from the chart. So that, again, there's really no need to go there pretty much at any time. Yeah. All right. I updated yesterday, but do not see the performance mode enhancer on my indicators. It's there. Just go, saying that you did update to the 3.1.0.1, that you just need to go there and access it, right? So it's not in the user inputs menu. It's in the NinjaTrader indicators for the purpose in which we've just discussed. Okay, so that's where you'll find that. You scroll down here, you would click on the PFAZoneSuite like that, and then you can see over here the corresponding settings, right? Now, you might be wondering, why does it just say PFA there? Well, it's just because I changed, like it used to say this, right? You can make that label say whatever you want. I just like to shorten it up. Reason I like to shorten it up is because if I want to hide the menu, you know, that label is short back there and it just hides it. You know, that's just a personal preference. Oh, it looks like you said it looks like I didn't update. Okay, yeah, so maybe, remember, it's very important. Remember that you uninstalled the old version. If you don't uninstall the old version, it is likely still attempting to pull from the old version and not the new. So make sure you do that. And a reminder, go into here. Let me post really quick. All right, I'm going to send you the documentation, very important. So go use the documentation, and I'm sending you the there you go, there's the link for you, okay? So I'm sending you the specific one that pertains to updating the software. How do you do that? It's all covered in the documentation, okay? How did I? Oh, okay, I'm sorry, let me get back to my questions here. Okay, is it better to wait for the RBR to close above the RBR to take a trade versus when the price touches the RBR since the bar could close down below the RBR? Okay, that's a really good question. So all I'm going to address it, of course, from the methodology standpoint, right? Because that could easily be subjective. One person may say, yeah, I want to do that for whatever reason, and they're entitled. Absolutely. Of course, everyone does things in their own way. But no, not for me, okay? And the reason for that is because it doesn't matter, right? So let's say here's the question, folks. Let me just make sure everyone understands, because it's a great question, really great. I don't think I've been asked it before. But the question is basically this. So let's pretend that we don't have this entry over here, of course. So if I go down here, I see the DVD, okay? Question is, do I want to go ahead and submit the order now, or do I want to wait for price to break below the DVD and then put, you know, an order up here for it to come back to after this current bar has closed? Okay, so if you think about so let's take that from a logic standpoint, right? What you're doing is treating it as a supply or demand level, right? Which is in essence what it will become, but that's not how we use the RBRs and DVDs, right? Now, we do use them for defining supply and demand levels, absolutely, but it's treated very differently. You see what I'm saying? Let me give you an example of that. All right, I don't want to be, you know, I want to make sure that you fully understand. I'm gonna try to get you a good example somewhere. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, so oh, that's a perfect one. This is the recent one that we discussed actually. I don't know how my lines disappeared. That's interesting. So if you look at this right here, okay, this DVD, so you can see right there, right? See that DVD? Of course, there was one before, so you could use either one. But the point is, we look at it like that. And you see how this in the future, right? So that's absolutely a supply level. In fact, that is the one that we just pointed out, what is a week ago or something like that, and we said this is a very important level, this is our supply level. Actually, we did it in the free session too, and I defined it to where the unexecuted orders were, yada yada. So that's how you saw it, I think, last week. Anyway, the point being is we do treat these like supply and demand levels, but the difference is we are executing on a retest of them. Okay, so in that example, we would let the supply and or demand, in this case supply, so we would let it confirm itself first, and that is to say we would wait for the strong departure, okay? And then we would say, okay, great, there's a lot of supply there. We can now use this as a supply level. So that's what you're getting here. It's kind of what you're talking about. Wait for the bar to close outside of it and then return to it. Okay. But again, that is definitely not what I would do with my RBRs and DVDs. It is what I would do with the levels, with treating it like a level, okay? The purpose in the RBRs and DVDs that we're discussing right now is so that I can get into it at the same time the institutions are pushing price. Well, let's go back to this one and use that example again. So imagine being able to use the same location 2 times. It's pretty awesome, right? Because remember how I've told you all many times we have to be multiple steps ahead of everyone else. We have to even, we really have to be thinking the same as the institutions. And that means putting ourselves ahead of the mass public, pretty much everyone with the exception of the ones who are turning the market, and that's to say the institutions, etc. So we have to anticipate what they're thinking so that we can execute the same way they do. Hopefully that makes sense. What I'm saying here is if we already anticipate supply to form, then I don't want to wait for it to form. I want to be the supply that actually forms it. If I don't execute on the label in itself and I wait for a bar to close, I just missed the whole move, right? I just missed that entire move down. Okay, so no, I don't want to wait for that. As I'm discussing right now, I want to execute before. So the purpose in the RBRs and DVDs is that. But then if you go a step further and you say, we talk about waiting or not waiting, etc., I'm already waiting. That is the function of how our software works. It doesn't print the RBR and DVD until it's valid. So if you think about it that way, I'm already waiting to confirm that an accumulation of order flow is about to most likely begin. I don't want to wait for the accumulation to begin, that's to say the battle. I want to execute on and or with the winner. Okay, so like winner, winner, chicken dinner, If I wait to see who the winner is and then I execute, I'm not a part of the winners, right? I may be a part of the remaining orders that are there, but I'm not part of the actual departure of it in itself. And that's what I want. That's the purpose in these. So right now, for all intensive purposes, watch the 36, 35, 50, and the 35, 78, 3/4. Okay? So this is a 4-hour chart, a little bit easier to navigate, okay? Especially with time purposes. When we rally and or decline, we're likely just going to go ahead and go. Now, my job is to determine which one of those I want to execute, if any of them, or both of them. Remember, again, going into the conversation I had yesterday, it was a great conversation, great individual, really had a great time conversing with her. But it's a very simple conversation, same that I have with you all every day. Okay? My job is to read the market. I should literally use this, I should coin this as my, when people say, what do you do? What's your job title or whatever? I should literally say, I'm a translator. And they say, oh, great, what language do you speak? Financial markets, price action, So, because that's really what I'm doing. I'm analyzing something that I can read. Now, why is that important? Because that is the most critical component of everything I do. It's not understanding a quote-unquote supply and demand strategy. Folks, that is no. That's the most minute part of what we do. The most important part is reading the market. So for all intensive purposes, how do I know if I want to be the seller or the buyer? How do I know today if I want to execute the RBR or the DVD or both or neither, right? That's what's most important. I get the entry signals. That's simple. That's easy. All I got to do is push a couple of buttons, right? What's more important is just knowing which button to push, when to push it, where to push it. So that's the critical component, right? Wouldn't you all agree? All right, it's again a great question. I hope that clarifies it. If it doesn't, please type in more, and we'll go a little bit further into detail. Let's see. Okay, gotcha. All right. What does the performance mode leave out? Then I may need for analysis or trading. Okay, so think about it this way. It's probably easier to say. It's probably easier for me to say what it's going to not leave out, right? If that's okay. So it's going to, on the back end, it's going to do all the calculations necessary for forming the zones. So that information we don't need to be concerned about whatsoever. It's all there. Everything to do with the calculation, the formation, everything with the zones displaying is going to be there in the back end. It has to be, because obviously you can't display something that you can't compute. So all of that's being done, but that's a back end. Think about, like, if you know anything about developers, you have like a back end and a front end. If you think about a website, what you see on the website, that's the front end is what they call it. It's the visuals, right, how it makes it look all fancy and whatnot. But the back end is the calculations. It's where the database, all the information is being stored. Like, what image do you want to put on that front page? What text is supposed to be there, etc. So you store all of that information on the back end in a database, and the back end tells the front end what to do, but the front end tells the back end what to look like. I mean, if that makes any sense. So it's a little tricky, but so that's how it works. So it's the same here. The back end is not going to change with its calculations as far as the zones and so on, like I said, or any other thing that is functioning while the performance mode is on. What does change predominantly is the visuals, anything that like would be, you know, outside of the standard zones and things to that extent. So for example, we just removed, it actually takes, you'd be surprised, it takes a ton of computing power to display, you know, volume profile inside, because what it's doing, we can still show volume profile, but instead of having to calculate it every single zone inside of every single zone, tell it where the high and low is, only display inside of that, how far, you know, there's a lot of things going on there. So we just remove that, because that's in itself removing tons of again, computing power right there. So I don't need it. And if I want it, I can turn it on at any time, as stated. Okay. So the visuals that are like inside of the zones, your volume profile, volume ratio, the stuff to do with your volume, the visuals of that, your point of control, etc., those things are not going to be there. Anything to do with the zones will. Your tools, those are going to be removed. Okay, so for the most part, this is what we're trying to eliminate, because as I stated, I really just, I need the zones, you know, I need the alerts, those are obviously pretty critical there, and I need order management. Okay. Outside of that, the tools for the most part are going to be removed, and the visuals inside of the zone. That's probably, I think, to the extent of it. All right, very good questions, sir. I was curious why the ZoneSuite didn't. I'll go into that later. It's probably because it's not on aggressive behavior right now. I have it set to advanced. But you're talking about something to do with the zone at some specific price level. This one is easy. I can address that real quick. Yeah, it's because this zone was a formation within a previous zone. Yeah, so that's why that one's not. Anyway, we'll go into that at a different time. But yeah, it's a zone within this previous zone. Real quick, I'll just show you. Okay, you see that right there? So it kind of recognizes that it's inside of that. It brings it up to the structure, which is where the stop would be. It looks at it, and there you go. That's why. All right, question about the RBR and DVD stop placement. Does the software automatically place the stop at the max risk, or is there a way to have it be placed in the proper place? Well, define the proper place and location, right? So, of course, our methodology defines that exactly. But no, what it does is it takes the maximum risk tolerance, and it utilizes it, right? So let's say I'm going to do a reset here. This is, again, time efficiency. I don't want to have to deal with all that stuff. I've made some changes. Okay, well, let me just fix it. All right, and everything is back to normal again. So now I know I can go down here, and I'm just going to do this for you to answer your question. If I go down and I submit like a DVD, okay, so I have that there. I'm going to submit that. The DVD is automatically submitted at, in this case, 3578 3/4, right on the label in itself. So what I want to do is just go grab, my stop and move it to wherever my desired location is, yeah. But that's not what I'm concerned about, because that's easy. What I'm concerned about is that entry. I need to make sure that that entry is exactly where it's supposed to be at exact time. So let me tell you, check this out, okay? So let's say that I'm going to bed, all right? I told you I was excited about this. I love it. I'm so excited. So let's say I'm going to bed, and I want to I want that entry. I don't want to miss it. But then, for whatever reason, I need to be alerted to that. So I can set an alert, even if I wanted to go up here and grab. I can do it multiple ways. I can set alerts, as you know, on alert lines, or on zones, or on continuation patterns, okay, so on. So I tell you what, let's say that I want to set an alert on a continuation. Well, not only did I just get my order submitted, but now I can be alerted to the fact. So now I can text message myself, SMS, I can have a text message sent, or if I have like my laptop sitting beside the bed or whatever, I can set the Audible alert too. But let's say that I have, let's go into my alerts, and let's just say that I want to be text messages. What I personally do is I like to have my phone, I'll keep my phone. But even if you have it in, it's very cool the way that the iOS is nowadays. Used to you couldn't do this, but now you can go into, if you're into do not disturb mode or sleep mode or whatever, you can go in there and you can allow certain things to come through. So you may say, let this contact, like you can add different contacts that can still reach you even if you're in do not disturb mode, right? So what I do is I go in there and I say, okay, even if, sleepy time or whatever, allow, in this case myself, my own number, allow it to still send me notifications or text messages, whatever. So then I'll set my my text messages here to send myself. I'll put my number at like whatever it is, T-Mobile or VText is like Verizon, whatever it is. But I'll put it in there, and then I'll say, okay, maybe on a new continuation and a continuation touch or whatever, I'll enable those and I'll send myself a text message when that happens. Now what that's going to do, I'm going to get a text message in the middle of the night or whenever it happens. So that in itself will wake me up, and I could be, aware that it's happening or not. Maybe I'm on that 4-hour chart and I just don't care. Maybe I just don't want to miss the entry, right? But ultimately, I can notify myself simultaneously. Does that make sense? With bells and whistles everywhere. That's the whole purpose in this. Being able to do what we need to do without the complications. Let me tell you, folks, way back, oh my goodness, 10, 15 years ago, every single thing was a line on the chart. That was it. I just had to draw every single thing. I didn't have alerts. I didn't get alerted in the middle of the night. I had to either not sleep that night. It's a true story. I know a lot of you, some of you specifically, you remember this. I would come into the room the following morning, and I would be like, all right, folks, just kind of bear with me because, boy, I'm fairly tired. I didn't sleep last night. You remember that. There were many sleepless nights that I had. Either I was testing, stuff and whatnot, or trying to wait for entries, but it was daunting. I don't ever do that. I don't need to do that now. What I do is I just utilize the tools that we've designed. Use the alerts. Send me a text message. Wake me up. Great. Now I don't have to wait up all night. I just get notified when I need to wake up. I'll pop up. I'll move the entry or move the stop or whatever I need to do around, go right back to sleep. All is well. Or, as I said, now I can just go to bed, let it get executed in and of itself, and I still don't have to wake up because it's going to do it anyway. Right? So I don't even need to wake up to move or manipulate the entry. It's just already there, which is, again, it's pretty amazing in my opinion. Okay, so yeah, so I can do that. Other things that I can do is use the lines, right? So I could use the Audible alerts. However I want to do that, I can specify that. And then if I want to use the label instead, I can go here and grab an alert line. And I could say, hey, if for whatever reason tonight, so if my DVD is down here, I'm going to give you another example, hypothetical here. My DVD's down there, I already see it, but I want to be a little bit prepared before we hit it.
Just go put an alert line there. So now it's going to send me a text message tonight. If we hit 35, 85, 50, it'll, okay, great, I'll get my text, it'll wake me up. I can set whatever alarm I want on that. I could also put my Audible on my laptop beside my bed, etc. A bunch of different ways to do it. So I can do that, and now I can be alerted to it and wake up and then make any changes that I want to. Maybe I decide for whatever reason that I've changed my mind. Don't do that. If I've made a decision, I've already made it, you know? But anyway, a lot of bells and whistles there. Hopefully that kind of clarifies that. It's very good. Wow, you are all doing so good with the questions. Wish about the RBRs to be stop placement. Oh yeah, so I just answered that. So he said, hi, Will, and hello to you, Luis. Great to have you, sir. So is this a more focused, less processor-intensive app? Oh, yes. That is the absolute focus of especially the performance mode. My word. So now I can, I'm sorry if I deviated from this. Earlier I was talking about the VPS. That's one of the major reasons, because on the VPS, you know, again, as I stated earlier, you're going to spend a boatload to get excellent specs on it or whatnot. So you can go with a lower spec VPS, spend less, hopefully, right, on the monthly subscription or what. And so, because you don't need as much CPU to run this. Yeah, so we can load more data now. We can just in general be much more efficient. So watch, like right now, for example, I'm on a 4-hour chart. And if I want to go load 1,000 days, which is just kind of crazy, you know, it's a long way back, but it's, for whatever reason, I may need to do it, okay? So you would expect that to take a really long time, right? 1,000 days worth of calculations, but it didn't. It's already loaded it. So in a matter of me getting that one sentence out, it had already loaded literally 1,000 days worth of data. So yeah, it's very fast, you know. So yeah, your calculations are going to perform pretty well, I'd say. All right, thank you for the question. Let me take this down before I keep flipping around and whatnot. There we go, 100 days, and loaded within a second. All right, I was asking about the purpose of setting it and going to bed. It seems like it might stop out that 100 tick max risk, then work. No, go, you know, move your stop if that's what you want to do, right? Absolutely. That might be something that we look to in the future. So what you're asking about is possible, but you're basically asking about an override. We don't override the maximum risk tolerance currently because that would, I mean, I could definitely educate on it, but that would be an override in which I would have to really get in there and see how worth it that would be. So basically you would be saying, hey, I have a maximum risk tolerance of 100, right? Let's say 100 ticks. But then you would also be specifying if, let's say, the risk that you actually wanted was like 121 ticks or whatever, something, you know, random. So now you're saying, hey, I'm telling you to have a maximum risk of this, but rather override that and don't listen to it. In other words, ignore it. So that's an override feature there. I would consider it, but also it would have to be exponentially understood, you know, because again, you're kind of contradicting what we're saying there. Use a max risk, but don't use it in this particular case. So yeah, something I'll consider. No audio on my VPS. How do you get it? Yeah, you can get it, absolutely. So I don't want to go into it right now just because I want to get through the rest of this really fast. But yes, you absolutely can do that. In fact, mine does it. It's just a setting in your VPS, right? So there's a setting in your VPS that you can go in and you can turn it on so that you get audio through your local machine. Yeah, you can definitely do it. I assure you, I do it. That's how mine works. But I did have to go in and alter that setting. Believe, if memory serves me correctly, you and I use the same VPS. So you could probably just shoot them a quick support request, or maybe I can look, you know, into it and kind of help you with it afterwards. Okay, let's see. Yeah, no, yeah, of course. We do have to, yeah, okay, good deal. Yeah, so I can confirm that it absolutely will do it. Yeah. John, send an email and I'll send you a link directly. Because I think they changed their name anyway. But yeah, just send me an email. I have a link, and just to be clear about it, it is a referral link. But I think like if you were to sign up, I probably get like 50 cents or $1, something like that. I just want to be transparent about it. And I will send you that in an email too. Yeah, for sure. I just have to go get the link though, right? I don't want to take too much time away from the session right now. All right, cool, guys. So guys and gals, we've gotten through most of this. Let me go back really quick into the release notes to see where we left off. Now I'm going to move pretty fast at this point because I really do want to jump out to the analysis real quick. So next things was we changed the order labels, the trigger lines. So when they're set to, in other words, what I'm saying here is when they're set to, we can go over here and we have either trigger lines or default method. So I'm specifically referring to the trigger, that's in parentheses if you're following along. It says change order labels, trigger lines, to bypass stop orders to instantly submit, limit, and or market depending on the user settings. So that means whatever I've opted for here, the order type, that's to say market or limit orders. Previously, the way that the function was is when an order would be submitted, let's say, because it's intuitive, right? It knows what side of current price it's on. So let's say that we went down here and we submitted a sell order. Well, again, intuitively, it knows that, hey, I'm below current price, so what it would do is submit a stop, limit, or market order. How did it know which one to submit? As I just pointed out, it is and or was dependent on this setting right here. So it's automatically going to be a stop order, but is it a stop market or a stop limit, right? So whichever one. I will tell you, I always try to share things with you as we go. I've been using market orders now forever. I mean, not forever, but I don't even know. For a couple years. I have no intention of going back currently to limit orders. I would have previously told you you were crazy. Okay, joking around, of course, but I would have said, look, you're crazy if you use market orders. But the reality is I'm trading the S&P 500, folks. Unless something just insane happens, I mean, how is little old me, you know, I'm not worried about it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not worried if I get a tick or even two or even three. I'm not worried about a couple of ticks of slippage. What I'm more worried about is not getting my execution. That is very possible with the limit orders. If I use a limit order, although not very common, because especially with myself, I prefer the bigger picture, you know, trading, not like scalping or even very short-term day trading, but I like swing trading and stuff. We'll talk about that later. So again, my issue would be not getting filled. Okay, so just go ahead and fill me. I don't care. You got to take a tick of slippage. It's not a big deal. And I've not had an issue at all. So, you know, market orders are my way to go nowadays. But to each his own, and you should absolutely always test, you know, you should test everything. Don't take my word for anything. Okay? So market of touch, that's what that MIT stands for. Because that setting is opted there, and I'm using my primary menu, which is right here in the primary settings, all of these right here, it's going. You can see also right here where it says primary / zone orders. So any orders that I submit from the primary menu and or from a zone in themselves, it's going to use these settings right here, right? It's going to submit it to the default instrument, which is the E-mini S&P. It's going to use trigger lines, not the default method. It's going to be good till canceled. It's going to use market order, 0 ticks offset, whether it's a normal entry or a stop limit, it's going to use 1. But I'm not using a limit order, so it's never going to be this. Okay? It's always going to be this because I'm not using limit orders. So I have 0 ticks of offset. In other words, wherever I submit the order is exactly where it's going to attempt to execute it. So what we've done is previously it was using that, right? Well, I said, no, that doesn't, it's not fast enough, right? Like I want this puppy to be, you know, the best it can be, not to pull from the Army slogan and whatnot, but you know, we want it to be the best that it can be. So what I said is, look, we're being redundant here, right? What we're doing is we're saying execute a stop order, but the trigger line is a stop, right? It is a trigger. So think about any stop order. If you talk about stop market orders, stop limit orders, I don't care what kind of order. If it is a stop order, the stop portion of said order is the trigger point in and of itself, okay? So if I say put a stop limit order at 35.20, that means don't do anything until I get to 35.20. Then stop and execute the second portion of said order, like the limit or the market version of it, okay? So I said, no, we don't need that stop. But it's being redundant, so we removed it because the trigger line is the stop. If I go down here and I submit, like if I do this, for example, and I'm using my trigger lines, not default method, if I'm using the trigger line method, and I go down here at 35.20, okay, in this case 35.20 half, and I submit that order to go short, it's already a stop order. You see how it didn't fill, did it? It didn't do anything. No, because it's already there. The stop component is there. So what I found is that by doing that, it would sometimes, like in that case, it was possible, even using market orders, to not get filled because it was going down, and let's say in a very fast-moving market, it would go down and it would hit the label, and as it hit the label, it would submit a stop market order. But if it already touched the label and it's trading a tick below it, then technically it's not hitting the actual stop market order. Again, it was a redundancy. We removed it. It's much more efficient now. Love it. Don't have to worry about any of that. Okay? We changed the RBR and DVD. No, we already talked about that. So in the default version, we changed the order labels to eliminate premature limit order fills when the order is submitted with the exchange's bid-ask threshold. Okay, so that was a unique case. Didn't happen that often, but there was a very unique case, specifically on like RBRs and DVDs, where the order may be submitted by being touched, but then in a very fast-moving market or whatnot, it may move back up or something to that extent. And because a limit order was being submitted, it may prematurely fill it as price was trading like a tick or two or something, above or below it, depending on so above a DVD or above below, an RBR. So the point is, there were very unique cases where it would have a premature fill. We resolved that. So that is no longer the case. All right. We reordered the order label detail box. Okay, so what I'm saying here is we took the labels and we just reordered a few things. And I did that because I was like, what's the priority here? Like, what do I want to know on the order labels, right? And I need to obviously know how many. I think that's pretty much important, right? How many contracts am I about to trade, or or shares, or what have you? And what in the world direction am I going in? Of course, the green is my color-coded entry, so let me pull that up here. Okay. But the point is, we reordered them to me, it just was a little bit more logical. It made sense, more user-friendly. So you'll see the reordering of that. This is the amount of shares or contracts that I'm attempting to trade. This is the direction in which I'm attempting to trade them in, short or long. In other words, do I want to sell? That's the short, or do I want to buy to go long? Okay, and it's going to put it on all the labels. Now the next thing is, of course, the market. I think that's very important in our case. Usually you'd say, yeah, obviously. Why do I need to know that? Because I'm on the S&P. Well, it's important because our software, as you know, can submit to any market, which is ironic, right? But we can literally submit orders to any market I desire and use the S&P as the trigger to do that. So I may say, submit orders to the S&P 500's ETF. That's an equity, right? Or you're trading it like shares. But I only want to do that based on the futures market. So I would go here and I could submit this to the SPY, for example. I could submit, 100 shares or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. Point is, I could use the futures market to do the analysis, submit the orders to another market. So yes, it's very important to display
I want to confirm what market this order is being submitted to. In this case, it is indeed the default, which is the E-mini S&P. Where is the value, right? Like what exact value? Of course, that's the entry value, 360250, and then stop, trigger line, target, etc. My currency, my risk to reward. How much do I currently have at risk? How much would this trigger line value be? And then how much is my reward potentially up there? Okay, risk and reward. And then finally, we added in what account. So I really felt fairly passionate about that. Number one, for my own purposes, as always, because I made an accident before. I've accidentally submitted to the wrong account, okay? And that was a boo-boo on my end. I didn't want to do that again. It's very difficult, probably something that you would never do, but I did it because, maybe I'm testing some things, or maybe I'm doing, sessions or whatever. So anyway, I always want to be aware, where is this order being submitted, what account, right? So what market, what value, how much do I have at risk, and then, what account is it going to? All right. Very good. Very good. All right. Let me get through the remaining. We added, so the other thing is it's saying we added the long, short detail box. So basically that's just this one here saying is it long or short, right? So I know that seems kind of crazy, but, or I don't know, maybe not necessary or what, but I assure you it is, because what I found myself doing sometimes is I would just forget which, for example, did I place a sell or did I place a buy? Like, what's the order type? I wanted to see that too. So everything we do is for a reason. Let me go back here and reset everything. There we go. Yeah, always has a reason, method to the madness and all that. We added the account number, as I talked about. There I'm saying that we added it to the mouse over. So if you go over to the menu item, the primary and or secondary, if you notice in the hover there, it also specifies the market and the account. Okay, so that's just another kind of thing that says, hey, just as I go up here to grab this, okay, be aware it's going to go to this market and this account, right? Okay. And then some couple of things there that we fixed, little bug items. You can read through that at your leisure. But we fixed RBR DVD entries resetting when when toggled on or off, they were not properly resetting, etc. We fixed a notification pop-up displaying when the secondary zones were not in use, and there was an instance where the alerts would trigger when the chart was reloaded. So those are just all kind of little bug ticket items that we resolved. And again, you can read through those at your leisure. Okay? All right, very good. Let me go through the questions, and then we are done with the release notes. I hope that you enjoyed that portion, and we'll get right out to the questions, as well as if you want to stick around for a moment, I might have a few moments to discuss analysis purposes. Okay, let me go back to where I left off. Let's see. Travis, yeah, you're very welcome, my friend. I'm happy to do it. Happy to do it. Do the new changes affect the auto? No, that's going to be, yeah, so that's a good question, by the way. Yeah. So, no, that was very important to me, right? Because I found that what if I have the strategy on the chart and not the indicator, right? So if I have the strategy on the chart, it will affect the visuals, but the strategy is still going to calculate all of it, right? Yeah, so again, no, it's a great question. If the strategy is on the chart, it's no matter what, it's going to pull the back end, and it's going to say disregard the performance mode, use everything, right? Yep, very good question. All right, how have you been, Will? Sorry to attend the room. It's oh yeah, no, I've been great, man. Life is beautiful. And so I appreciate you asking. We always get reminders of just how short it can be, so really do sincerely appreciate you asking. And I would like to know how you are doing as well. If you can just kind of let me know. Yeah, we're blessed, man. We're still here, so that's always a good thing, right? Yeah, very good. But definitely, type in or at least let me know, email me, and let me know how you've been and everything. I'd love to hear, get a little update on you, for sure, my friend. Wonderful software, Will. Thank you very much. And even and even trade and sleep at the same time. All right, thank you so much, man. It is great, I tell you. Like I said, we do these things, as you all know, for a reason. It's not random. Anytime we find that we need something, it's like, well, let's, 10 years ago, or actually maybe a little bit more than that now, but about 10 years ago when we started this crazy process of the software, the ZoneSuite, back then called Zoning MTF or whatnot, but anyway, man, I never would have anticipated that we could do, never knew what we could achieve, and it's just been an amazing, amazing path that I'm happy that you have joined us on, so it's very cool. Awesome. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, very good to hear. Very good to hear. I like the latter part of that. Not so much the first, but yeah, I'm very glad to hear that latter part got over that. Goodness gracious. Yes, you're very welcome, of course. Excellent. All right, guys and gals, any questions about the software, so on and so forth, and then we can just kind of spend a little bit of time looking at these insane markets, folks. I just wanted to close that entry out there real quick as we're doing this. So let me know about your questions. If you have any remaining, let's go ahead and knock them out, and then we'll look at. But just as we're doing this, I'm going to go here, because let's say that I goofed up, as I'm explaining all of this to you all, and I made some changes I didn't mean to. Remember, here's how simple this is. One button, right? Boom, boom, and boom. All done. So now I've basically resolved all of my charts back to what they were on the original template and what we began the session as, okay? So it's pretty straightforward. Is strategy a different product than you have available, like an automated strategy? I remember when I was in class a few years ago, you mentioned several times that you would have an automated version that someone can run when not available. Yeah, so we do have the fully automated version. This is a double-edged sword for me, right? I mean, I don't think there's any way for me to win on this one, because I feel very passionate about people not using automation. Why go create automation if you're not going to use it, right? Okay. Well, look, I use it for, I do use it, but I use it for testing theories predominantly, right, and things like that. And yes, if I want to use it and leave that puppy running, absolutely I can. But here's the thing, folks. Let's be realistic. There are a lot of variables when it comes to automation. So I'm the worst salesperson in the whole world, right? Because here I am saying, yeah, here's a product, but I encourage you to still be able to do things manually. So terrible salesman. That's okay, though. I don't care what automation. I'm not talking about our automation. In my opinion, it's amazing. I mean, it's what we've accomplished is there. I don't know of any other software literally in the world that has accomplished what we have. I'm not going to go into details with that, but there's functionality in there that's I've never heard of it before. And I'm not saying it's not there. It absolutely can be. But even in the indicator in itself, think about what we're capable of doing. Submitting orders to other markets, submitting it to multiple accounts, I mean, that's kind of crazy stuff, I am very passionate about people being aware of what they're doing. I don't want you depending on something for the rest of your life, right? Now, the idea, and yourself, I believe, you already, obviously you've been through some of the training and stuff, so you are aware of what a lot of people aren't. You know how methodology works, or at least some of it, things to that extent. So you can do things manually. But if someone comes to me and they say, look, I don't have any idea of trading. I'm not educated. I've never really, traded or whatnot. And they say, I want to go the automated route. I'm going to absolutely do everything in my power to defer those people to something else. Okay, I'm going to do it every time because, again, I'm passionate about your long-term ability to be self-sufficient and so on. But yeah, it's automated. It's fully automated. I can test it all. That's how I do what I do, right? That's how I've built my my own, unique version of just doing this. It's all through the automation and my ability to test my theories. So yeah, it's there. It's not a different product though, just to be clear. It is the exact same. It's the ZoneSuite with the strategy that utilizes the ZoneSuite. That's all it is. Yeah. So in other words, anything that the automation can do, you can do using the ZoneSuite manually. But again, all it does is it pulls all the tools and all the zones and every data point that the ZoneSuite has. That's exactly what the automation is using to execute. Nothing else. It doesn't use anything other than the ZoneSuite. Yeah, great questions. Awesome questions. Yes, indeed, John, this will be recorded. Thank you for the question there, sir. How do you set up the software to trade other markets? Okay, so what you want to do is go into the settings. Let's say that I wanted to trade, we'll go to, I know you guys and gals like to see the charts move around. It's all fun and cool. I get it. Remember what I say today and every other day, of course, but just remember this. I joke around. I like to have a good time. I don't want to be your typical whatever, and I don't want to be boring, although maybe sometimes. Please, from the bottom of my heart, hear what I'm going to tell you. I know this is fun. You see price moving around a lot. It's all fast, and like we think we can do really well, day trading, scalping the market, and all that stuff, and it's like it's more exciting, right? Let me tell you something. I would rather be the most boring person in the world, but do well at this and be consistent, okay? If you learn nothing from me, ever, and which is very possible. I mean, who am I? Just another folk. Remember, I'm a translator. That's what I do. I'm just capable of building curriculum and all. That's kind of my background and teach. But anyway, the point is, this comes from many years of my own experience, beating myself up, going back, and it's just, I don't want you to trust me. I'm not asking you to do that and just take my word for it. I'm asking you to test it. But when I tell you that the exciting part is not really the part that has done well for me, it's the boring part. It's the basics. It's the bigger time frames, so on and so forth, right? So anyway, I know it doesn't sound exciting. Somebody's thinking right now in the room, they're thinking, oh, you just lost me, or that's not what I wanted to hear. I get it. I totally understand. I'm not, for any reason, trying to talk you into it. I'm just telling you, please try to mark my words and be open-minded to it. That's all that I ask, okay? Moving on. If you go into your settings here, so we're going to left-click the User Inputs menu, and your question was, how do you set up the software to trade other markets, right? So what I would do is go to my order inputs, because this really has to do everything with order management, where the orders are being submitted, etc. So notice this right here. It's called the hedge instrument, and currently I have it set to the SPY, okay? So this, again, hedge instrument, remember that, because we'll reference it in just a moment. When I go down here to my order labels, remember the primary, there's only 3 areas of information here. It's the primary zone, the primary order menu, the secondary order menu, and the zones in and of themselves, right? I can submit orders directly from the zones using the TF or CT buttons. Now, if I wanted to submit to a different market, then I need to go here. Let's say this is how I would use it. It's kind of how it's designed, but we actually went in and did kind of a little bit of a redesign, because I was like, I want more flexibility. For whatever reason, I might want to submit from the primary menu to another market, and I may want to submit a different market from the secondary menu. So I may literally never submit an order to the E-mini S&P from this chart at all, right? I could literally say, don't do that, from the primary, send it to the hedge instrument. So in this case, let's say, here, I'm going to give you a good example. I'm on the E-mini S&P, so I want to use it for all calculations, but I want to submit the orders to the micro E-mini S&P, okay? So that's all good, fine, well, and good. Redundant on the good there, sorry about that, but it's fine, well, and good. And so I may say from the primary, submit to the hedge instrument, which is to say to the micro E-mini. I may also do that from the secondary orders. So now all 3, so from my primary order menu, the secondary order menu, and the zones, all of them are going to go to the micro E-mini, okay? Why would you do that, Will? Well, because I may want to set it up in a way that I have, like, for all intensive purposes, different, like contract sizes, things like that. So let's say that I want to submit them all to the micro from the E-mini, right? I go to my primary here, and I could say, you know what, on my primary, which is pretty much what I try to always submit maybe, I might submit 5 contracts. So remember, that's going to be 5 contracts on the micro E-mini because I've told it to go there, not here on the default. So 5 contracts is going to be half of a single contract on the E-mini, okay? So that might be my default, but I want to do this really fast, you know. Everything has to be about efficiency. So I may go there, and then I may say, you know what, I want to do something different in my secondary, though. I want to maybe submit like a single contract from there, and maybe I only use a one-to-one break-even multiplier. The point is I'm altering things, right? So I'm doing it based on the way that I need it to be, okay? Does that make sense? Now, out of my zones, I may do something entirely different, but here's the point that I'm trying to make. Let me apply that, and I'll show you what I mean. So now I'm going to go here, and I'm going to buy the market, okay, like that. Okay. So what just happened, you see how I have a total of 5 contracts? But for whatever reason, I'm in a fast-moving market, okay, something like that. And now I'm going, oh, goodness, I'm not with the trend anymore. Nope, don't want to do this one. I want to do this one, okay? So well, I'm sorry, I forgot to let me go do that because I don't want to mess anyone up. Let me confuse people as I'm doing this. I changed the wrong setting. So I'm going to go into my, right there, okay, my quantity and change that to 1. I could leave that at what did I have it at before? Is it a 2 to 1? Doesn't matter. It's just going to be different. So make it whatever I want it to be. And let's say if I'm trend following, I go here, and you know I could alter this however I want it to be, right? So there's my trend following. I got 5 contracts. I'm doing this really fast. Submit it to the micro. See how the label says micro E-mini, not E-mini? So no, now I'm counter trend the market. Uh-oh, don't do that. Do this. Do you see how now it went to 1 contract? So I can move really fast. There's a reason. There's always a method to the madness here. But anyway, let's say that now I've just goofed up. Man, didn't mean to make all those changes. Really wanted it the way that I had it before. Okay. Done. It's right back to the way that it was before. So to address your other question, or actually it wasn't part of your question, but I'm going to address it anyway. The same goes for the accounts. I'm not going to click on that because I don't want to pull up everything, but anyway, so you know the account is per right here for the primary order menu in the zones, and right down here for the secondary, so all of that. Okay. Very good. Whew, we're moving. All right, so let's see. I know you advise against it. Well, I always remove the word advise because that is not something that I ever do. You know that. I mean, so you already know that, and I don't really need to say this to you, but I will anyway just for clarity purposes. Even though I'm reading out the content of the message, I just want to be very clear. I don't make advice of any kind to anyone. I'm not a CTA registered broker, to be very clear, so I'm prohibited from making advice. I only share my experience and educate on my methodology. So let's just throw that in there. But yeah. So the question being, so I know you would advise against it, but I was just thinking that the strategy might help me to backtest with different time frame pairs. I've always been interested in automation and finding it fascinating. Yeah, no, exactly. Absolutely. So I do the same thing. That's what I use it for. And has it helped me? Help is a very light word when referring to that. Yeah, it's helped me exponentially. Again, it allowed me to test all my theories, right? Pretty cool. Yeah, Bob, so that would be if you have, so the hedger, it's like an add-on if you want the secondary menu. So the PFAZoneSuite, and then you'll find it in your, if you go to your user profile, it's called PFA parentheses hedger. Yeah, it would be in your user profile. Let's see what you mean on that. Yeah, awesome. Very good, very good. Okay, folks, I don't see, you're very welcome, my good sir. I don't see any further questions. If you do have them, just let me know. Oh, I'm sorry, there's one. Is the said strategy a separate purchase if I wanted to experiment with it, or is it include? It is an add-on, yeah. It's an add-on because it's a PFAZoneSuite, because it's a separate thing. So it is an add-on, yeah. But the strategy. You are very welcome, guys and gals. All right, real quick, any questions? What a great session, I feel like. I enjoyed it in reference to the software. I hope that you got a lot out of it. If you have questions, we can look at anything. Remember, if you want to address some analysis, we can do that real quick. Otherwise, we can call it a day. We've been in for almost 2 hours. So if you have an analysis question really fast, let's address it, and then we'll move on. Please remember, I will address what I've previously discussed. The S&P 500, I believe we have further room to run on the downside. I've been saying this for weeks. Specifically, or should I say with specificity, right? Because it's not enough to just say, hey, there's room to run on the downside. It's like, where are we going, though? Like, how far down, or things like that. So specifically, I've been referring to this 3481 quarter, which is, I believe, where we're attempting to get to. As I pointed out previously, we reached this, you see where the RBR line there is, and this is what I refer to, as you all know, as the entirety of this level, but that's where that is, and we basically touched that area and kind of bounced off of it. We're, over here, got a pretty decent bounce off of it, and that's why, but that's not where I would anticipate that we would actually get more of a rally up, or at least not on the bigger picture. I do want to be clear about this. As I said yesterday, this is not a quantified level. It is, however, on a monthly chart, something to be acutely aware of. So 3481 quarter and or lower. I want to be further. I want to be a little bit clear to go a little bit further, right? Remember what we talked about yesterday, the location. If I get down, so when I start looking at the quantified area, that's going to be literally down there around 2800. It's a long way down. It's a long way down. Don't worry. I'm not saying I think we're going to get there. I'm just telling you what the chart says, right? The chart is saying, we get down around this 2800, just above, actually. So let's call it 2900. I'll put you something. Actually, let's do this. So specificity, 2445 3/4. That's hard to even think about. I don't believe we'll go this low, but we shall see. We're going to contend with this, though. Trust me. No, don't trust me. Remember, test this. Do it yourself, absolutely. But all joking aside, I make these comments when I say trust me. I am telling you, though, this is a absolute big level because it's on a monthly chart. So shorter term, you better believe that we're going to have some absolute buying come in around anywhere from 3198 to 3481. I believe that to be very, very true. We got to get there first. That puts us below 3500. We've not been there yet. It's over 100 points lower. Remember, we talked about this yesterday as well. So again, 3481 quarter with specificity. That's where I believe we're heading to as of right now. We are at that point, still very much in a long-term uptrend. Bullish that market long-term, so I have nothing to be afraid of at this point. And I'm actually very excited about it. It's just going to give us better price values, right? Discount. Remember Best Buy. Go get that TV 30% off, what have you. So this one is going down in the context of a very long-term uptrend, i.e. pulling back. So discount. Yep. All right, so we have that. So I'm paying attention to that longer term. Look, we may not get there. It's possible, but anything's possible. So for me to get excited about the market, I need to get down there below, 3,500, okay? At that point, I will absolutely evaluate the buy side of the market, at least for, swing style. If we get below this, I'm not going to freak out, okay? But I am going to pay very close attention, and I've already told you what I'm looking for. I'll tell you that again tomorrow. We'll look at that, the exact entry type and everything like that I'll be looking for, okay? And I will be looking for it, absolutely. But right now, like I said, there's still room to run. A couple other things you want to be aware of, perhaps, in my opinion. You can take it or leave it. The Fed. Remember, we got out more information today. Listen, here's what's happening. Let's sum this all up. The markets are anticipating all of this. So the reason that the market is dropping is because it's trying to price in the information before the information is there. It's already dropping. It's been dropping. We're down 20+% on the S&P, 30% or whatever on the Dow, I believe. We're way down there, right? So we dropped a lot. And the markets are anticipatory, so it's already factoring this stuff in. But what you're not seeing is the advanced numbers. Think about this. We got PPI, we got all this core inflation data. It's coming in, the unemployment. That's, remember, what I told you to pay attention to. I'm going to reiterate this. Pay attention to the labor market. That's what I believe that they're looking at very much. I've been saying this for a long time. Hope you're listening. You get positive unemployment numbers, you have a problem. You have a very good thing, that's great. Good low unemployment numbers is absolutely what we think we want, but not when it comes to the financial markets, because the Fed is, right now, they always say don't fight the Fed, right? As the expression goes. Well, typically the Fed is trying to stabilize the economy and help it go higher or whatever. No. The Fed is doing the exact opposite. They want you to lose. They want you to, and I don't mean that to be, literal. I'm just saying they want to see high unemployment. They don't want you to be able to go to all these vacations that you want. You can't just go to Amazon and buy everything you want anytime you want it, right? You can't just, go out and have all this fun and buy all these fancy vehicles and everything. They don't want that. That's the reason everything is so expensive, you see? They're trying to get this under control. So by reducing your ability, meaning all of us, the economy in itself, by reducing the ability to go out and pay for those things, you're the demand. We are the demand. They decrease the demand. The businesses, they hurt from this big time because who's buying their products? Well, not as many people as before. How does that work? Well, when that happens, what happens to the cost of goods? It comes down, right? Why? Because no one's able to buy it at the inflated prices. So there's the balance, supply and demand imbalance. The Fed has the monetary policy, the inflation you have to watch. The labor market is very critical in what they're doing. But getting back to the point, the markets, what we look at every day is it's already factoring things in. The numbers that you're seeing come out with the economic data, those are lagging numbers. You see the difference? Okay? Lagging numbers, very, very different from what we're seeing on our chart. So what you have to be very careful with is going out and listening to all the media and the news, because what's going to happen is they're finally going to come out with what the Fed wants to hear. Well, understand that the markets, what we see right here, is already showing us when that should happen. So by the time it actually happens, and then we start coming out with the negative, unemployment numbers and the core inflation, all that stuff, inflation starts to go down, whatever, it's going to be time for the markets to rally, okay? Because it's already going down. It's already heading where they're lagging. So I just want you to be aware of that, and that's what's happening right here. We need to get lower, and we need everyone in this room, including myself, to panic. Now, I know that none of us are, because we're going to talk through it every day that we're in the room and so on, but we need that feeling of uh-oh, okay? And if we have that feeling of uh-oh, but yet we can control it, and everyone else out there has that feeling of uh-oh, that's a good thing for the markets. You know why? You're going to get what's called panic selling, and then they're going to sell right into the mouth of the beast, okay? In other words, the institutions are going to be there waiting to buy it from them. So then what will happen, you're going to get a VIX spike, right? I keep saying we're going to look for that, so I'm looking for about a 40 VIX spike or greater. It could literally go all the way up to 80. You saw that in the pandemic. But that's not, I'm not realistically looking for that, especially not with these market conditions. I'm looking for more like 40 and above. Anyway, so you'll get a VIX spike. That says people are starting to panic. You want the panic. They're going to sell, sell, sell right into the big money buyers. Price will turn back up. They're going to then, by the time price starts to rally, they're going to realize, oh man, I just sold low. Now there's no way for me to get that back. Okay, so it's a big problem, especially for people looking to retire and things like that. This is so heart-wrenching. It breaks my heart, but that's just the way that it unfortunately is. So as we go down here, watch the chart. and the news, the economic data, that will be lagging what we see on the chart. Okay? So that's why when I tell you that, yeah, I see, that there's definitely potential to drop below in 3481 to the 3198, even if we go just below that, because remember what I told you my entry method was. I'm not saying that we get down here and I'm just going to start hitting the buy button randomly. No, I want the exact picture. I'm going to say if then else, if this happens, do it when I'm asleep, I don't care, whenever, it doesn't matter. I'm going to use my software. I'm going to hit the button, right? I'm going to let it happen. So it's either going to happen inside of this area or it isn't. If it doesn't, and it peaks a little bit below it, maybe we get down to around that 3,000 mark and just shy thereof. So if you look at it like this, if I pull up to this area, again, about 2880, 80, remember the 80s. I talk about this all the time. Very important. Anyway, 2880 would be my specific number there. But if we get down there, I'm not terrified. Again, I'm actually pretty excited because now I can go in and dollar cost average or whatever, basically buy low. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so my number one area right now is 3481. Again, the 80s. Okay, hear what I'm saying? So the 3481, and then we'll worry about this later, folks. This is months potentially. If it ever, hopefully it never gets there, but if it does, we'll address it. Of course, we have weekly, daily sessions and all that stuff. I'm not worried about this right now. Okay? All right, the S&P now, if I go and do all of my analysis exactly the same way, but I do it over here instead of that monthly time frame, that allows me to go over here and execute, the short-term like day trading type of stuff, which is where that trade came from yesterday, and hopefully where some more will come from tomorrow. We'll focus in on the analysis of actually executing trades and so on. Okay. All right. Let me just navigate through these questions real quick, and then off we go. Okay. NASDAQ paints a slightly different picture of being a better buy right now. Nothing I'm reading too much into, but I find fascinating. Well, not right now, but this is, but if if this RBR triggers. All right, cool. Let's go look at that real quick. Because actually, now that you mention it, I noticed that too. Let's talk about why, though. I love what you're saying there, by the way. The amount of knowledge that comes into that is what's very cool. Okay. So yes, I agree. The reason that I agree the NASDAQ might be the better alternative or market, if you will, is because the NASDAQ has already made a lower low, and therefore it absolutely can reach larger time frame demand. So let's see, like, let me go back 1,000 days and just see where we may have demand. Don't know if I even went back far enough. All right, let's see. Let's fit a load here. The NASDAQ is a very intensive market, by the way. So, yeah, we got 1,000 days. Yes. We're definitely into support. Okay. Okay. So let's spend just a moment here real quick, okay? So take a look at this NASDAQ. What I'd like to do, so we're definitely into this area. I think that's very obvious. Note that this area has been tested, 1, 2, it attempted it 3 times over here, 4, okay? This is becoming pretty weak. What I would say is if we kind of correlate the markets. I don't do that for trading purposes, but for analysis, it's pretty interesting to do. What we notice here is that if the S&P were to make a lower low, that's to say if the S&P were to take out this low, right, on the S&P, of course, right? So if it made a lower low the same or similarly to the NASDAQ, if it were to go lower as well, note what would happen right here. We would simply drop into an even better level. Now, the reason I say that's important is because that could be potentially construed as a bear trap, all right? And I would pay very close attention to that because, again, this is a very prominent level here, really major structure. And oftentimes what you see is that when we take those structures out, they're not aware, meaning traders or whatnot, are really not aware of what's just before it. Well, in other words, this formed before this level, right? I should say just below it. Yeah, so I would definitely pay attention there. But no, I agree with you absolutely as far as, we are into support, and you have a really, pretty big, long way to go to get back up to this larger picture supply here. That's 11,368.5. I just am not, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for that. Yeah. So the reason I don't want to just, I'm going to probably focus on this tomorrow because tomorrow we'll go into all of the detail. But think about this. Because again, I don't want to be random. I don't want to be vague or general. I want to be specific. So think about what I talk about in a trend. The trend in itself, there should be a numbered extension on that, right? So we have the equivalent extension of that 27%. So when we don't reach that, it tells me that we've not really pushed into substantially oversold territory. So I really want to go get there, right? And what I'm not seeing here is that. I'm not seeing that, but just go even further. So that's just one way of looking at it. And really that only coincides, I'm just throwing that out there because that's exact numbers and what. But that coincides with the very basic, most general, I'm going to be super redundant here, the most basic, general, basic information of all, right? So if I put the visuals on the chart, we would see that it's not really in, it is getting close, but we would see that it's really in do-nothing territory right now as opposed to buy territory. So I want to play my game, buy, sell, nothing, and so on and so forth. Let's do that. We'll do that tomorrow. And on the NASDAQ, could it rally up? Absolutely. I mean, it certainly could. But if it does, it would be putting in a momentum double bottom right now. And there's still a lot of uncertainty in the market. So let's relate the information that we're getting. Remember, we're seeing the lagging data, but here's the problem. So I love the chart. I'm going to look at the chart always, never the data. But in this particular case, the data being lagging as it still is coming out positive. The Fed is not happy about that. You have to know this. So they're not going to, they're not going to make this easy on us until they get what they want. So right now, anytime we're on the buy side of the market, unless we are substantially oversold, we're fighting the Fed, which is a very dangerous thing to do, in my opinion. And they, by the time we get that information that they're looking for, we should be substantially oversold, in which case I think we will have, guys and gals, I believe we could have a very good rally. But I don't want to fight them. I don't want to fight them too much. So the problem that I'm referring to is the lack of, we're not going to hear from them. When do we hear from them, right? So we need to hear directly from the chairman of the Fed, not the opinion of all the Fed. We need to hear from the policy that the Fed is putting into effect. We need to hear them say, we're slowing, or we're reducing rates, or we're, you know what I'm saying? By that time, we'll be ahead of that, by the way. But yeah, I'm just not seeing that right now. What I'm seeing is continued positive, data, and I'd like to say that is absolutely manipulated. Okay, in my opinion, of course it's manipulated. It's lagging data for one. But how do you think they come up with the estimates, right? You got to think through, sift through the weeds, so to speak. But anyway, yeah, I'm not quite there yet. We'll see how that goes, though. Let's talk more on it tomorrow and see what we see, right? Thank you so much for bringing that to my attention, by the way, and I wholeheartedly agree. The NASDAQ is likely going to be the one that reaches the demand first and will give us the absolute turning point, probably before the S&P does. Just looking at the visuals now, it might be the one that turns us back up. So that's a good thing. Keep an eye on it. Right now, I would definitely keep an eye on this bear trap as well. So down around that 10.566 3/4. I would keep a close eye on that to see if we can get down there. I believe you'll find that there are going to be some bulls come in a little bit solely based on that bear trap. They're going to sell right into them, and I believe they'll try to manipulate the market a little bit. All right, folks. You wore me out. You didn't even do anything. You wore me out. How does that work? All right, guys and gals. I hope you had fun today. I know I did. God bless you. If you have any questions, let me know. You can always, if you want to get the software or whatever, just email, or you can do it directly from the site, so on and so forth. Okay? Take care, everyone. Please stay tuned. Lots of emails, lots of stuff coming up, and we'll be at it every day in the room. See you soon. Bye.